This past week I had a meeting with a man who's a little bit older than me, not by much, and I know him well, and he began our time together saying that he was going through the worst 5 weeks of his life. And he's not a man given to the dramatic, and so right away I was sort of poised in a different way to listen sensitively. And as he shared the confluence of circumstances of his past 5 weeks that he's not through yet, it did kind of seem like a violent squall that we heard about in the gospel. And I felt a few different things in my heart. The first, maybe just to I wanted to curse the darkness with him, Yeah, I know those kind of people, and I've experienced this, and I've experienced that. And then secondly, I am a man after all, so I wanted to fix it for him. I wanted to try to figure out on the circumstances how we could get him through this. But then I actually felt the subtle grace of God just to do two things. First, to empathize, which actually wasn't hard. It was there in my heart. But then just to have this laser focus and freedom to serve his heart in this most difficult place of his life, to relate his heart to God. So I asked him two questions. What has been the hardest thing for you of this experience? And he thought about it, and it took some time and some more questions. But ultimately, there's a sense of feeling alone in it, and then feeling incompetent. Like I'm not enough. If I would have done this or done that, this wouldn't be happening, and I should be through it. Certainly, there was some false responsibility in all of this for him, which can creep in so subtly for all of us. Like, I remember having a spiritual director tell me once, what you're going through is hard enough. Don't make it harder by torturing yourself. Whew, that set me free, But then I asked him, what do you want from God? What do you desire from God? And he said, with a little humor and exasperation, a little help would be all right. Now I said, well, tell me what's in your imagination when you imagine God helping you. And I suppose it started with a kind of magic wand help, Just wave the magic wand, poof, these people disappear, this thing gets untangled, that gets fixed. But ultimately, when he could stay with that desire, what he really needed most was a sense of God's presence, that God was with him. He actually told me that there was a sense of wounding in his relationship with God because of this. Yes, I was still praying, but my heart's not in it. I noticed myself pulled back. I'm going through the motions. And so we started again from there. Lord, I need your help. I need to know that you are with me. That's all I need. And then I can live this, even when I don't know when I'm going to come to the end of it. I want to begin here because, of course, we come and we gather around and none of us know the burdens that each other are carrying. Of course, through empathy and with a little imagination, we can wonder. And the trials of our life can really be the most delicate places. It can be the places where our relationship with God gets wounded through untruths. And so this gospel is so important. And I want to ask you just a few questions. Why were they in the boat in the first place? Because Jesus asked them, let's go to the other side. It's actually a really important detail because sometimes the trials of our life come up when we're actually just trying to be faithful. That song that was sung before Mass started, it's one of my favorite. All my life you have been faithful, but sometimes we got to get there. Secondly, notice what Jesus is doing. He's sound asleep. I was teasing Father Sam. He got this piece of art that he hung up in our old rectory. We're now in our rental rectory on our way to the new rectory. But besides the fact that I didn't care for the art, it was titled, "The Storm Coming In." And Jesus and the apostles were looking almost like foreboding that the storm's coming in. That's not what happened at all. Jesus seemed to have no sense of the weather app that we have on our phone. We're going to the other side, and we got to go now. And he's sound asleep. And when he wakes up and brings calm and peace, thirdly, what's the question he asked them? Why are you terrified? I mean, do you ever want to wrestle with the words of Jesus? Like, what do you mean, why am I terrified? We were taking on water. This thing was violent. Well, I just want to begin there because I feel like sometimes this is a very delicate place in all of our lives and in our hearts. It's the trials that kick up the anxieties. They kick up the anxieties. And sometimes we build extra closet space in our interior so those anxieties have a place to reside. And instead of kicking them out, casting them upon the Lord, relating our hearts to Him, we just keep our anxieties at arm's distance. Either escapism or, when we can't bear it, we just, I try different things. And is there another way to live? Is there another way that Jesus, He never asks a question to be dismissive. He's honoring of our humanity. And so when He looks at you today in His Word and says, why are you terrified? He really means it, and He really wants to relate that terror in your heart to Him. And we all have fears. And if we don't relate those fears, they begin to operate in the shadows of our consciousness. Like the boogeyman that I believe existed in our basement growing up. So I'd get out of the shower. Of course, my brothers had turned off the lights. And I would fly because there's a boogeyman, And we can live this way, can't we? Well, you just say, how did all these fears and anxieties just start to reside on my shoulders? And I took them for normal. I think some of you know a few weeks ago I was leading a silent retreat for 16 or 17 missionaries of charity in D.C. And one sister came on the first day for spiritual direction, and she said, I'm so frustrated. I was so looking forward to this retreat. I really want this time to be with the Lord, but I'm finding I can't be in the present. My mind, my imagination, my heart is running to the future. What's waiting for me when I get back? What's unresolved? What happens when I run into this sister again? And so I just stay with her heart. Do you know every day she came in for direction, the rest of the week, the Lord in His gentle kindness, His light, had surfaced another fear. And she just kept naming the fear and relating it to God through me. And by the end of her week, her whole countenance and her whole bearing was so different. Was so different. I wonder if you know that you're naming your fear and actually casting it on the Lord pleases Him. I can't wait to receive our new associate, Father Sean. He had his parents help moving some things in our rental rectory this Friday. Isn't it? I'm not trying to feel sorry for myself, but one of our associates is in Wyoming right now and one's in Alaska, What gives, Anyway, I can't wait to tell him my first principle of parish life, pastoral ministry. At this point, you should all know it. In all things, whatever happens, stay calm. And I love saying that because they look at me, they haven't had a funeral yet or a wedding, they're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, stay calm. And this isn't a magic trick. We have a theological foundation. Like, if Christ is with me in the boat of my life, then I don't have to anticipate every storm. We really don't. And He speaks authoritatively this calm and peace into your life. And if I know him with me, I'm almost invincible in a certain way from whatever trials. I'm not. I'm human. I'm vulnerable. I'm weak. But the truth is, when I know him with me, when I taste that he is good and he's close and he'll never leave me, you know, it reminds me of that scene from Lord of the Rings. I think it's Gimli or something. He says, certainty of death, little chance of success. What are we waiting for? But otherwise, our fears and our anxieties just hold us bound, and they color our life. They really do. I want to close just with the connection of this gospel to two other gospels. Do you remember what they asked him? Lord, I just love meditating on these grown men. They're more competent on the water than anywhere else, and they're in terror. They're waking them up. They're screaming, Lord, do you not care that we are perishing? Do you know who else in the Gospels asked the Lord whether he cared or not? Which takes some boldness. It actually can be good for your relationship with the Lord, if you're honest. It was Martha. Remember Mary sitting at his feet? She's busy doing all this serving. Lord, do you not care that I have been left alone to serve you? What's the wound for Martha? She thinks she's alone. We can all be in the martyr complex, but certainly if I don't know the Lord, if I don't put him first, if I'm not chasing after him and not drama, seeking him with all the affection and energy in my heart, then I am prone to the storms. Just being tossed around over here, and then life happens to me instead of having some no, I get to navigate this with Jesus. And all my life, he has been faithful. He's been so, so good. And then the other connection, do you not care that we are perishing? Does that ring a bell to you at all? It's arguably one of the most famous verses of the Scripture. God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that whoever believes in him, this isn't just intellect, this is the trust of my life, will not perish, but will have eternal life. So I really want to encourage you with some reverence. We all have our anxieties. Don't hold on to them. Don't build an extra closet for them. Don't take them as normal. Don't let them color and push you and influence your life. Come to me, all you who are burdened, weighed down by the cares. Cast your cares on me, because I care for you.